Sacramento State makes a Shaq-sized splash, hiring the All-Star as their new general manager. And sorry, LeBron, CBS Mornings anchor Nate Burleson tells us why Christmas is now the NFL's big day. Hey, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, where sports is big business. From FOS Studios here in New York City, I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thank you guys so much for joining us on our first episode. Every weekday, Baker and I will be chatting about the biggest stories in sports, business, and culture. And we've got more information to get on into later in the show, but first, let's kick things off with some other headlines we've been keeping an eye on in the Shootaround.
Yes, indeed. And let's start with someone who's getting paid today, Renee. That is George Kittle, the 49ers tight end, announcing on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast that he has signed a new 4-year, $76 million deal. This is going to keep him in SF for the rest of his career, most likely. $40 million of that, Renee, guaranteed money.
Yeah, with that AAV of $19.1 million, it does make him the highest paid tight end, passing Trey McBride's $19 million, so just edging him out slightly. But what I like about this is George Kittle said earlier this offseason he wants to be the highest paid tight end, got that deal done, was able to negotiate during the offseason camp. And for San Francisco now, one of their biggest offensive pieces they lock in because you also have Brock Purdy, who's sitting going into his final year of his contract. So looking at already losing Deebo Samuels, they could not have afforded to lose George Kittle as well. So massive for San Francisco.
Absolutely. And of course, his 9 years with San Francisco, 1 year away from being in that elusive or an exclusive 10-year club with the 49ers. Only 51 other Niners players are in that club.
And honestly, when you are someone like George Kittle that's been one of 4 tight ends that have had multiple 1,000+ yards in a season, you deserve to be the highest paid tight end in NFL history.
Amen. Some of his stats and some of his deals you see right there on your screen. All right, elsewhere, Fox Sports 1 has fired the head of the network, Charlie Dixon. This after he was named a defendant in multiple sexual harassment lawsuits by a former network hairstylist and a former studio host in Julie Stewart-Binks. Now, Dixon has denied the allegations. He said in a statement you see right there on your screen to Front Office Sports that he was actually fired for hiring his wife as a freelancer, Renee.
That is the interesting part about this. The network did come out saying he was let go for violating company policy because he did not get it approved by HR, even though it was alleged that he did get approved through another source or pathway. So it wasn't specifically about the lawsuits for Dixon's firing. It was specifically regarding the inability to follow company policy. So we're still waiting. I know there are still the conversations. Our own FOS exclusive from Ryan Glassbeagle has been breaking down all the updates around this story. It's developing, and we'll have more updates, but the lawsuits are still in the works of being settled and discussed.
Yeah, and of course, Skip Bayless, the former FS1 host, was named in this, as well as Joy Taylor, who was actually sidelined for a few weeks on Fox Sports. All right, sliding to the 5th round. That didn't hurt Shedeur Sanders' jersey sales. That is the new Browns quarterback is number 3 right now on the NFL Shop's list of the highest selling jerseys from the draft, behind Travis Hunter's Jaguars jersey, as you see right there, which is number 1. And actually, number 1 pick Cam Ward, his Titans jersey is number 2 on the list. How is Shedeur Sanders ahead of Ashton Genty on this list? That's so interesting.
Yeah, but Baker, this is so on brand with the NFL draft viewing and ratings alone. I mean, that day 2, I know we talked about it off the show, for day 2 of the draft to be so high, for the one of the highest paid NIL valuation players coming out of college in Shedeur, it's no surprise that he continues to have that same success in terms of jersey sales. So when you see the 40% boost on day 2 from 2024 in the NFL draft and all that Shedeur has racked up, it makes sense that the jersey sales follow suit. Even though he still doesn't have a number.
Yes,
it's double zero. He still doesn't have an official number, yet here he is with the highest jersey sales. No other Browns pick was in the top 10, and is the only one that was not a first-round pick in that top 10 list. So I'm curious to see at the end of the season where he's going to stack, or if any rookies compare in the top 10 overall. Last year was Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Will we get a Shedeur Sanders or maybe another rookie? Travis Hunter, possibly, in that top 10 jersey sales.
You're so right, because Travis Hunter, number 12, Cam Ward getting Warren Moon's old number 1, and Shedeur Sanders double 0 because he doesn't have a number yet. So I love people who will have this old Shedeur Sanders jersey that is just double 0 until he actually gets his new number. But either way, hilarious stories there. And of course, you mentioned the ratings for day 2 of the draft, and even day 1, but day 2, the biggest that the NFL
That's the Shedeur effect. I don't think it's a Caitlin Clark-esque effect fully, but I think we are getting a Shedeur Sanders effect for sure.
All right, let's head on over to Sacramento State, guys. They were going full diesel as the school with only 2 winning seasons since 1991 hired Shaq, that guy, as their new men's basketball general manager, furthering a trend of athletes heading back to college in either a coaching or a front office role. So let's break it all down in our main event. Okay, so Sacramento State, as I mentioned, only 2 winning seasons since 1991. So what does Shaq bring a school like Sacramento State, Renee?
Well, this is just the latest of many changes that the university's been making ever since hiring Dr. Luke Wood back in July of 2023. The young administrator has been bringing a whole new change to this college. And it started on the football side. They're building a new stadium. They've been making massive hirings. You brought in Mike Bibby on the basketball side, his first ever college basketball coaching opportunity. And to now bring in Shaq, an 18-year NBA veteran, an analyst, Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, that's going to come in with this pedigree as a 4-time NBA champ. We went from shattering backboards to now shattering business deals. I think it's massive for just the direction that this university is going. That's been already making such a change in their overall athletics, and also because they've been actively trying to become a winning program, become a winning school that's involved in bigger conferences, bigger opportunities. And I think Shaq is just the latest of that massive opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this, because is this Sacramento State trying to join the newly looked Pac-12? Pac-12 still has one more football school that needs to get into that conference for them to be eligible for bowl games. And a lot of talk is maybe centered around Sacramento State. And it's because, as you mentioned, they're dumping so much money into all of their athletics. Michael Vick hired as their football coach. They have a new football stadium coming out. They have this basketball stadium. Shaq's son is now on the team. But Shaq is taking this as an unpaid voluntary role. I mean, look, he's got so much money that he's got out there. But how much time do you think he's actually going to be able to dedicate to something like this?
We've already learned Shaq's 24 hours are not anybody else's 24 hours.
True.
He's working with a different clock throughout the course of the day. The fact we're even talking about Sacramento State and it's trending and it's viral is exactly why they bring somebody in like Diesel. Right. Because it does bring now conversation around the university that wasn't had before. And they're trying to build. I mean, you talked about the losing seasons, just 2 going back to 91. And as a program, to add him, it helps with NIL, it helps with recruiting. This is a guy that from Newark, New Jersey, where he was born, has been able to get his doctorate degree. He's been able to win NBA championships. He's been an all-star, an MVP, finals MVP. He's had all the basketball accolades. But on the business side, he was able to take what was a $286 million earnings in his NBA career and nearly doubled that to be someone that's worth $500 million in his net worth because of the business opportunities. You look at all the different ventures Shaq's involved in. I don't know what Shaq is not involved in. That actually might be a shorter list because he literally has had his hands in so many different aspects beyond. We just talk inside the NBA and see him on TV, but there's so much he's doing behind the scenes. And I think that's why bringing him in to help mature and grow and teach these young players and men about business basketball in an NIL era he's a walking NIL.
Yeah, it's so true. But also it's this trend that we're seeing of other athletes going to either their alma maters or to other parts of the coaching tree or front office tree at other universities. I mean, look at this right here. Just from Woj leaving ESPN and the millions on the table to go to his alma mater. You have Steph Curry becoming the assistant general manager of his alma mater at Davidson. Same thing with Trae Young at Oklahoma. And then Terrence Mann also at Florida State as well. And then, it drives the NIL, but it also drives the promotional aspect, because it's like, who doesn't want to go play for a guy like Shaq or Steph Curry if you're getting sort of the blessing from them to be on the team?
Yeah, and I love that in interviews years ago, Shaq was talking about how Amazon founder Jeff Bezos inspired him to understand, if I don't believe in it, I'm not going to invest in it. Like investing in things that are making positive changes. This is exactly what this is about. It's not even just about his son being on the team and being able to coach be involved, I should say, in Shaquille O'Neal's journey as he transferred over from Florida A&M. It's also about helping mold a whole generation of players. That's what every single Woj, Steph, all these other players are doing, is to give back, to leave the game better than they were in part of it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, coming up next on Front Office Sports Today, we're joined in studio by the great Nate Burleson. He has some words for LeBron about the NFL taking over on Christmas Day, which, of course, he was on that coverage as well. We've got that interview plus a lot more Front Office Sports Today right after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. Nate Burleson is pretty much everywhere these days on CBS, Nickelodeon, and even Hollywood Squares. And he had enough time to join us in studio to talk about the NFL and a lot more. Take a look. Nate, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk about CBS, media, all that stuff here in a second, but let's talk football first. Some new technological changes for the NFL with the yard line technology and a bunch of other things. How do you sort of feel like the NFL, compared to other leagues, maybe the NBA, has done in terms of changing and altering the rules, especially when it comes to new technology.
Yeah, listen, they started a while ago with trying to make the game safer, and then they've been hearing the whispers asking the NFL if they're going to usher in some of this newer tech. This is an old school sport, and we have a lot of traditional fans. But at the same time, there is this youthful audience, this youthful demographic that really leans on technology. And they're like, yo, what's up? Like, how are we not utilizing everything that we see in all these other leagues? Then you really just leave it up to people to watch it instead of waiting until after the game and saying, oh, they screw it and blew that game. It's all fixed. You know, I hate those storylines because there's no way you can fix an NFL game. That's just absolutely ridiculous.
And you would know, obviously.
I would know. You can't fix an NFL game. There's too many variables.
Right, of course.
Like, yeah, there might be a blown call here or there.
Right.
There might be a superstar that gets a lenient no call, but you can't fix an NFL game.
Also, in terms of changes, even from the media landscape, I mean, Netflix adding all of these Christmas Day games. There's now 3 Christmas games, one on Amazon coming up. You were part of that.
Yeah.
What was sort of your idea and your mindset on the NFL coming in on Christmas? Because this was always traditionally the NBA's day, but now it seems like the NFL's taken it over, and it's been incredibly successful.
Money talks and all the rest walks. Come on now. Netflix and Amazon, let's just keep it real. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
They were like, look, the NBA has dominated Christmas for a long time. We want in on the action. And the NFL was like, all right, talk to me nicer, don't talk to me twice. Come with the dollars, or I'm going to let you guys deal with Christmas how you want to with the movies that you're showing. And listen, the dollar sign was right, but more importantly, all jokes aside, it was how they produced it up. They did a great job of not just producing up the game, but also the halftime shows were entertaining.
Right.
And for the first time in a long time, I believe that the NFL has cemented its position on that day that was notoriously known as an NBA day. Shout out to LeBron.
Yeah, I was going to say, LeBron.
Like the NBA is, what did he say? The NBA
he said this was the NBA, Christmas is the NBA's day. Yeah.
No, Bronny. My bad. I don't want to call you Bronny. That's disrespectful. Bronny is your son.
Yes.
Bron.
Yes.
The NFL is king. Football is king. You know that. You the king.
Right.
So you know football is king. This is how I knew the NFL has successfully replaced the NBA on Christmas Day.
Okay.
I was watching TV waiting for some type of cool promo for the NBA, some guys shooting into the nets with the jingle bells or Santa Claus dribbling, something.
And?
There was nothing.
Yeah.
They did not market Christmas Day. They didn't go big like they used to.
No.
That's because they realized the NFL is here. It's here to stay.
And do you love doing the Christmas games? I mean, I know you just did it just recently.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, we spent the Christmas in Pittsburgh. The family was hanging out with me, and we watched the game. It was fun. We enjoyed it. You know, shout out to Pittsburgh and everybody there. We had a good time. But it's an opportunity for me to, one, be in the booth. You know, I'm in studio most of the time for every show that I'm on. So I get to flex a different type of muscle, and it feels good to be on the field. I don't oftentimes get to see the guys that I talk about because I've been in studio for so long. So it feels good to walk on the field in the pregame and, you know, guys call me Unc and Grandpa. I appreciate that.
When we were at the Super Bowl, we were talking to Brian Roloff at the NFL. And he was talking about how we love Brian Roloff. His whole thing was like with the Manning cast, with the Nickelodeon cast, you're getting viewers who maybe don't want to watch the regular game, but in different ways you're finding other ways to get them involved.
For sure.
And you're obviously part of the Nickelodeon telecast. What's your sort of mindset going into something like that? And do you like the idea of the NFL having other platforms that are broadcasting the game in different ways?
Yeah, it's great for the game. Listen, I'm an 80s baby. I was raised in the 90s, so I'm influenced by those 2 decades, and it was part of the Nickelodeon era. So I've seen every era, and I have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 14-year-old, well, soon to be 21, 19, and 15. But I've seen every single era of Nickelodeon, and I realize how impactful it is and the reach that they have. So being able to call the game and have this perfect marriage between the NFL and Nickelodeon, it only just reestablishes the idea that there is an opportunity to reach new fans, you know, and there's different ways to do it. There's still families that have to make a decision on Sundays. whether they're going to sit there with grandpa, who really loves the Packers, and watch football, or if they're going to watch some family-friendly content. What we do is marry both of those things. And the biggest compliment that we get is that it's entire families that are watching. I just had an interview with Asia Wilson. Shout out. She's a GOAT. Yeah. And as we get done doing the interview, she's like, that's where I recognize you from. And I'm thinking, because, I'm a former receiver and I got a big old ego, that she's going to be like, I remember when you played, you were amazing. Or she's probably going to say, I love what you do on CBS with the NFL or in morning news.
Wait.
She was like, I watch NFL Slime Time. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you watch NFL? She's like, I love the show. It's fun.
That.
So that just put things in perspective. Like, there's fans of all ages.
MVPs are watching this.
So I thought that was dope. So it really just kind of confirms that what we're doing is working.
There was one quote you said in Esquire that really stood out to me. You said, working in the media is actually harder
100%.
Than working in football.
No
Explain that.
I was blessed and gifted physically, so I just had to improve on the skill set that I already had after I left high school and college to play in the NFL. Hard work, yes. Did we work our asses off? For sure. It is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not being dismissive to the game or athletes that play the game. They know exactly what I mean when I say that. But there is a different type of muscle when you are working in news. On any given week, I'm reading 4 or 5 books because we have 5 authors coming in. And that's just not to mention being prepared for what's going on politically, socially. And then we're still going to entertain, so we have to cover pop culture, movies, music, and TV. The biggest compliment that we get on our show at CBS Mornings, and shout out to Gail King, Tony DeCopo, and Vlad, and of course everybody else that works on the show, is that we actually put the effort in to read the books, watch the movies, and watch the shows. It means so much more than any other trophy I've ever won.
And on top of that, getting the coveted Asia Wilson Nickelodeon
No
endorsement
doubt.
is
No
even
doubt.
bigger than that.
No, and she sent me some shoes. Shout out to Asia Wilson, man.
Amen. Nate Burleson, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, you can watch Nate on pretty much everything on CBS News, Nickelodeon, and of course, Hollywood Squares as well. We got more Front Office Sports today coming your way.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado, and it's big business right now to be Wrexham AFC, the club that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McEllheny bought for just $2.5 million just a few years ago, is one step away from being in the English Premier League. So for more insight, let's bring in our editor-in-chief over at Front Office Sports, Dan Roberts, for more. So how are they able to do this in just a short period of time, Dan?
Got to win on the field, first of all. And the biggest pitfall of owning an international soccer team, of course, there's promotion and relegation, as we're discussing. You don't have that in the U.S., right? So it can be really exciting. I mean, promoted 3 seasons in a row, that is amazing. That's the dream. But when you get relegated and you get knocked down to the lower tier, then you got to spend big to get back. So I think having the celebrity owners has been huge for this team, but also they've spent to bring in the better players and win on the field. And now that they're one step away from the ultimate, the big dance, the Premier League, as our colleague Eric Fisher wrote, you can think about it as jumping into the deep end of the pool. If they get there, they are going to be swimming with the big fish, and it's going to mean spending a lot more, putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I mean, the club's now worth over $133 million. And when you look at the fact that it's really, as you mentioned, difficult to crack into, European soccer is not like American sports. It's not, a draft and other things. You have to deal with transfer fees and acquiring players is much more expensive. That's why the Premier League, in terms of revenue, is double the next highest European league in La Liga and Bundesliga in what they generate each year. So for this ascension for Wrexham FC, AFC, to have the show that has won them 8 Grammys, to have the success of League One to Champions League, how special when you look at the bigger picture of what these two and Rob and Ryan are able to do to take this small community and build it to be a top European club.
Yeah, I mean, I think on one hand, I'm tempted to say that too often the celebrity owners get too much credit, and it's like, they're just the faces. But in this case, I think they really deserve a lot of credit. I mean, it's brand awareness, it's fandom. You mentioned the show and the Emmys. I mean, sure, like the show is really big with making a person who's not that into European soccer or football pay attention. Everyone knows Wrexham. Everyone knows that Reynolds and McEllheny own it. But also, you got to win on the field, right? And let's mention here, you talk about the revenues of the bigger tier. Wrexham was already, they had $35.6 million in revenue in this last season, which puts them really very close to the average revenues for the Champions tier that they'll now be in. So they were already kind of outpunching their weight class, so to speak. They're ready to be with those bigger dogs. But again, you got to win to get there. Now they want to do a stadium improvement or a stadium expansion. So it's sort of like you spend to buy the team, although $2.5 million, we're talking about pennies compared to NFL, MLB, NBA. but they're actors. They don't have the billions that the billionaire American team owners have. So they bought $2.5 million, and then you're not done spending. You got to keep spending, right? Especially in this European soccer world.
Yeah, Bloomberg just said their recent valuation is now at $133 million, so a 5,200% increase from what they bought a few years ago. We have 60 seconds left, but is this why you see so many celebrities, athletes wanting to become owners of teams now?
Well, so that's a really good question, or at least what you're getting at here. Would they sell? And the problem is, if they sell, I got to imagine that valuation goes way down. Because right now, and again, they're good on the field. That's great. And the revenues have grown. That's great. But a big part of the draw and the awareness and the excitement is Rob and Ryan. So if they did this just as an investment, which I don't think they did, and certainly they would never say they did, time will tell. But let's say in 2 years they get out and they want an exit. I don't know then what happens. I don't know who buys it next. But yes, everyone wants a team right now because the franchise valuations are soaring, both in the States and outside the States.
Yeah.
As you and I talked about recently, Renee, also you've got a lot of American money flooding into European sports. If you're an athlete or a Hollywood actor, someone with some money to play with, you want to own a piece of a sports team.
Yeah, very good point. Dan Roberts, our editor-in-chief, thank you so much. And guys, let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS Watercooler. All right, so Renee, we're all still recovering from that super awkward interview that Bill Belichick gave CBS Sunday Morning over the weekend.
Not going to talk about that.
That, of course, where his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, is overheard shouting for Belichick not to answer certain questions about how they met in particular. But now TMZ is saying that Hudson got so heated, Renee, by the questions, she actually stormed out of the interview, delaying taping by half an hour. TMZ is reporting that sources close to UNC are really perplexed by this.
Well, for clarification, if anybody missed the video, she actually interrupted the interview saying, like, we're not going to talk about that, which is why I was making my joke. So in case it went over someone's head, I was like, someone might think that I'm being weird. But I will say, this 24-year-old that has Bill Belichick wrapped around her finger, people around him have indicated they're alarmed. They said she's a runaway train. They said they're concerned about how this is going to impact his new job as head coach at UNC. We're talking about a guy that's won multiple Super Bowl championships, a guy that has a legacy that he's building. And at 73, it's on the tail end of that. And then here comes this new manager, social media, interview, PR person. She wears many hats. It's concerning because she is literally stepping on his toes. And Baker, I don't understand what's happening here.
No, me
and
neither.
His family allegedly saying they have to like tread lightly. They don't want to say too much, but they're concerned.
Yeah,
and I'm concerned.
I would too, given the fact that how many trophies and awards this guy has won, and it's just so interesting to see this. All right, guys, join us back here tomorrow as ESPN's Ryan Ruocco and Shanae Agumwuke will join us to chat the NBA playoffs and a lot more. You can find FOS Today episodes on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. See you tomorrow.